overwhelming sense of narrative authority he etches into the magical underpinnings of his tales. Powers's evocation of magic feels real because it is real. And we listeners sense that. We know it. Not consciously, perhaps, but in the subconscious residue of our Australopithecine past. It resonates with us because it evokes a time when we told our stories on cave walls and huddled against the darkness of a world governed by unknowable, implacable rules. Powers reminds us how the world works, how it really works, and when he presents us with these reminders, they suddenly become self-evident. Of course I shouldn't play cards on a houseboat. Of course ghosts are attracted to palindromes and loose change. Of course earthquakes are caused by the Fisher King. The magic of Tim Powers's fictional worlds is neither arbitrary nor ad hoc. It's measured and structurally unassailable, the craftsmanship of a master architect. No matter the era, no matter the locale, no matter the characters and their travails, the magical rules of the world always adhere to an unstated yet undeniable logic. Each novel affords us a different perspective on the same underlying truth. Nowhere is this more evident than in the expert synthesis of Earthquake Weather, 1997. The Soul-Stealing Gamblers of Last Call, 1992, and The Ruthless Ghost Eaters of Expiration Date, 1995, populate what appear to be their own unique supernatural settings. But when Scott Crane and Koot Hoomie Parganis join forces here, in the culmination of the Fault Lines trilogy, we see they're navigating the very same magical space. Not coincidentally so, but necessarily so. Their magical world is our magical world, the world where you are listening to these very words at this very moment. I say all this as somebody who once found himself snared in a ghost trap, ripped straight from the pages of Expiration Date. May I lose my soul in a game of assumption. May my personality be shattered. May ghosts inhabit my body if I'm lying. Traveling through Australia some years ago, I found myself waiting for a tram in a leafy suburb of Adelaide. Sitting on the bench at the tram stop, I looked up and took note of the suburb name, Glenelg. As it happened, I'd read Expiration Date just prior to this trip, using a copy borrowed from my traveling companion. We'd discussed the book at length earlier in our travels, so it wasn't a wrenching non sequitur when I pointed out the palindrome on the sign. "Good thing we're not ghosts," we joked. Ha ha. Not a minute later, I noticed a handful of coins scattered on the bench between us. "Hey," I said, "I think you've got a hole in your pocket." So, of course, I tried to gather them up. And tried. And tried. Until I realized they were glued to the bench. First the palindrome. Then the coins. And then, as they say, the penny dropped. This is a Tim Powers ghost trap, and it's working on me. It was one of only 2 moments in my life, so utterly disorienting that the gears of my mind seized up. For a split second, I honestly did not know what was real. Was I dreaming? Had I fallen into a Powers novel? Was I a refugee from a Powers novel? Or had I always been a fictional character who merely dreamed he was real? Strange things happen when you read Powers. You become susceptible to the magical undercurrents of the world, and the world sends you signs and portents, rewards and warnings and encouragements. I first read Earthquake Weather as a battered second-hand mass-market paperback, the kind of used book from which forgotten things sometimes fall. A grocery list, a photograph, a receipt, a Christmas card. In this particular case, just as the focus of the story shifted to San Francisco, a scrap of paper fluttered from between the pages, an old but unpunched transfer slip for the famous San Francisco cable cars. I still have it. It's not every day a magical artifact falls into your lap. I can't claim that Earthquake Weather will reward